Hello, welcome to It's Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and wow, we got another absolutely wonderful show coming your way today. And I hope everybody had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I mean, I know not weekend, but week so far. I'm ready for the weekend already. But I just got back from California, and it was nice, cozy, and I get back to Texas last night, and it's 100 degrees. I'm ready to jump on the plane and head back. you know, But I tell you, we got an absolutely magnificent show coming your way. We're gonna be talking about getting your life back and all the things associated with that one. So I'm excited about the show today. But I cannot do anything without bringing the executive producer and the co-host, Dr. Michelle Cooley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And yeah, so when I picked you up from the airport yesterday, it was like over 100 degrees, like 104, 105 when we were driving home. But yeah, the heat is no joke. It's no joke. But the best part is that you returned home, and I know you're happy to be home. We're happy to have you home, me and Bella.
Well,
Bella's our black lab, by the way.
hey, baby, I love you, but I was gonna jump back on that plane and head back with it.
we we have
I
we have AC in the house, so you ain't got to worry about nothing. But this is going to be definitely an interesting show, very educational, and we're just really excited to have this amazing guest on the show today.
oh
And I
yeah,
will introduce her when we get ready.
I am looking forward to chatting with this amazing guest, and she's a classmate and a good friend, and I I tell you, if wherever you're watching this at, whichever platform, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is go to the comments and ask any questions that you might have. Dr. Cooley, can you please introduce the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this absolutely magnificent guest of ours?
Yes, the title of today's show is Get Your Life Back Now. It's time to recover from narcissistic abuse. And we're going to have a conversation with Dr. Saundra Stancil. She's an entrepreneur, certified professional coach, international best-selling author and speaker. And we're going to be discussing today, like, what is narcissistic abuse and how does one learn they are being abused by a narcissist? And there are different examples of what narcissists do to their victims and how people can recover from this type of behavior. So Dr. Saundra Stancil is an accomplished entrepreneur, international best-selling author, and speaker who has started 7 successful businesses, all on a skinny budget. A recovered survivor of narcissistic abuse, Dr. Stancil is writing her latest book on the subject and coaches others seeking awareness and release of this type of bondage. She's a certified in professional coaching and recently was awarded the Superstar Award by her alma mater, Trinity International University of Ambassador School of Business, because she has continued to accelerate with extraordinary talents, exceptional achievements, and undeniable dedication to her field of work with greatness. With a diversified background, which includes trade show development, medical compliance, and marketing and sales, Dr. Stancil has coached thousands in these and many other areas as well. She's consistently rated high as having the patience and know-how to get you on track to start your business idea without worrying about finding the money, figuring the licenses needed, having the right supplies or equipment, and more. She has served on board of directors and advisors 4 times in her career span, serves as a leader in business and community organization, as well as started 2 professional associations. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Saundra Stancil.
Welcome to the show, Doctor. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Just excited
It's
to be here.
it's an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, and I think our viewers and our listeners are going to get a serious education on recovering and some of the things that it requires in order for a person to have the right mindset to come out of whatever situation or circumstances that they might be in. There's always a better way of recovering, so we're excited to have you on today. Hey, Dr. Stancer, can you tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit more about you, where you grew up, um, some of the things that's instilled in you today that you learned from growing up in previous experiences?
Absolutely, sure. So I actually was born in Washington, D.C., and I grew up there and eventually moved to the suburbs. So I live right now in the suburbs. I live in Maryland outside of Washington, D.C. And it's just amazing to live in the nation's capital. It's just so much here. I have learned a lot here. And at one time, believe it or not, I wanted to move where you live. But I decided it was time to, to realize the fact no matter where I travel throughout the country, I'm always hearing about something that's happening in the nation's capital. So I decided, okay, I'll stay home. I'll stay here. But yeah, I love my home. I love here. I don't want to relocate. But I've been here since the day I was born. I was the one that's born here. The rest of my family actually were from the Carolinas and they moved up here, but I was the only one in my family that was actually born here.
So, Dr. Sandra, did you always want to be an entrepreneur, or is this something that you came across because entrepreneurs just that's just a word because started 7 different businesses and you got a lot of businesses right now. So tell us about that. Was that always your goal, or is something that hit you and you just follow suit?
Very good question, Dr. Cooley. So no, it was not. It was never my intention to be an entrepreneur. Be truthfully honest, I actually wanted to be a doctor, but it was going to be in the medical field. Interesting. I am still a doctor right now. But actually, yeah, I started off. I started off with I was working in the medical field, and then I went into sales and marketing. I was really putting myself through school, putting myself to get my bachelor's degree. And during that time, I took a course on marketing in the healthcare field. Love marketing. I loved it. And I decided it's time for me to check this out. In the meantime, at the same time, there were others who were other facilities, other healthcare centers that seeked me out to become a consultant in their area, and so I became a consultant and it was in medical records was actually the field. And while I was doing that, surveyors started noticing my skills and my ability, and my restrictions and my requirements was stricter than theirs. So they start referring me. So eventually, and of course, I didn't turn down any business because I did not want to lose the income and the possibility of increasing profits. And so I continued to receive clients while I was studying and loving marketing. I actually took on a job selling kitchens and baths. And my boss told me that the customers were not mine. And so, because I was fighting for their rights, so I decided it's time for me to get my own customers. And that's what I did. I started a business, yes, in an area that I really wanted to always receive. There was gift baskets, and just happened to be at a show with at a store with my best friend, and I said somebody is selling these to the store, and stores like this. And it was right around this time of the year that those gifts came out. And so that's how it got started. I started a gift basket business, and then I moved from the gift basket business, which was corporate gifting, into trade shows and developments. And how that came about, one of the areas was weddings and wedding shows. And these people, brides to be, love to buy lots of gifts. They were buying like a corporation. And so what I decided to do, focus on that. At the time, I was engaged and getting married, and I discovered that some people in that area, in that arena, with the wedding shows, was really insulting their customers like me. I decided to create one of my own, create a show of my own. And that's how I got into trade shows. So in trade shows, not only wedding shows, I also produced and developed business expos, financial and health and green living expos as well. And then I supported others with producing job fairs. So did trade shows, and that's pretty much my history. I became a consultant because others started to seek me on how to start a business. And that's where the skinny budget came in. I really was coaching them and teaching them how to start a business basically with no money or minimum amounts of money, because that's how I started business.
Wow. So you named about 3 hats right there, but I know it's many, many, many more. Can you tell our viewers and listeners? Because you do. I don't know how you do all of these things. How you get enough time in a day to be able to keep switching hats and doing this and doing that. How do you time manage to be able to run all these businesses and continue to stay focused and have a work-life balance?
Well, before this beautiful world of World Wide Web and internet came along, I had these calendars. And I had a calendar for one business and a calendar for another business. But now, so many of them are online right now. I have an online calendar that I use, and I'm able to separate and section off the different focus of the different business. So one platform, but several different calendars within that platform. And that's how I'm able to separate. However, let me answer your question about how I'm able to operate and function in each of those businesses. It was never my intention, just a side note, it was never my intention to operate 7 businesses or even do them at one time. That was a method of survival, and we'll get into that when we talk about narcissism. But what I did was, each of the businesses that I work and I operate, I do have a team that works with me as well. But each of those businesses, I focus on them during their peak seasons. So during their slow season, it just so happens that during the slow season of one business in that industry, it is actually peak season in another business. So I'm actually functioning and working year round at a high level in each of those businesses. That's how I'm able to do that.
Well, I tell you, we got about a minute and a half before the break, but I want to ask this question. What are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced as an entrepreneur that you thought, wow, this might be overwhelming right now, but then you solved it, over a quick period of time?
Dr. JC, let me tell you, I'm switching to Dr. JC now. Cash flow. Keeping the money coming in. You can always be profitable, but that was always the biggest. And so what you need to do is you need to know and learn how to manage and your finances. But keeping the money coming in, keeping it going through the pipeline, and so sales and marketing was the biggest part. And finding out what is it that the customers need, the clients need. What is the best form of marketing or the best form of advertising, and focus primarily on that. Not what I like, not the appearances that I like, but what is it that they like the most and that appeals to them the most. And that's how I'm able to work in any of those, each of those areas.
Wow. You're one of a kind, and you're doing a lot of great things. But you know what I tell you, we're going to take a station break. But whichever platform that you're watching this on, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the comments, ask this great doctor any question that you might have, and become part of the conversation. We'll be back shortly after the break. Is Your Life with C Show.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I tell you, this is fun. It's getting exciting. It's getting ready to get more exciting. So if you want to be part of the conversation, just like I said, whichever platform that you are watching or listening to this on, all you have to do is just go to the comments and ask any questions that you might have. And I promise you, Dr. Sandra would get you an answer. Hey, Dr. Sandra. Now, the title of the show is. Let me make sure I get it right first. The title of the show is "Getting Your Life Back." It's time to recover from narcissistic abuse. Can you tell our viewers and our listeners why you chose that topic, and what do you want them to get out of this?
Sure. So let me just start by saying I love the title of this show. It's Your Life, because it's all about your life. And honestly, I really wanted to just be to become a part of the show by giving that same title. And so that's what this is. Surviving, recovering, and dealing with the narcissist is all about their life and what they can do, what they cannot do. And so that's mainly what I wanted to do. I wanted them to know that those who are dealing with and have dealt with and are still trying to recover from narcissistic abuse, that they can release that. And so it's about their life, and it's about getting over it and releasing that type of treatment.
Well, Dr. Saundra, what exactly are the signs and symptoms of narcissism?
So that's a good question, Dr. Cooley. One of the signs and symptoms is that they tend to be. They have well, first, let me just say it is a personality disorder. They tend to be have a high sense of themselves. They have and seek adoration and also acceptance. And they don't really have an interest or a care about anybody else. They only care about themselves. And so they seek and they do things and take credit for other people's successes and accomplishments. And so a narcissist is a person who is actually a mental disorder, it's a mental condition. And what they do is it's almost like it's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of personality.
Wow. So can you kind of summarize, let's say you or anyone you know who had an experience with a narcissist, and what is any risk of having that type of relationship? Can you kind of dive into that?
Yes, absolutely. So I actually survived an 18-year marriage with a narcissist. That's how I got involved and learn as well as recover from this. So actually did not know that I was dealing with a narcissist. I just knew that I was trying to survive so much and trying to accomplish so much. And being in that marriage and being in that relationship, there was just some things that we were not accomplishing and was not getting done that you would normally have done. And I discovered that the narcissist was actually was actually competing with me. And just a side note also, I discovered that I was dealing with a narcissist because there was a friend of mine who told me that she was actually self-absorbed and that what I was really dealing with was a self-absorbed person. And so what I did was I did some research and I studied self-absorbed. While I was studying self-absorbed, I discovered the word narcissism, and that's how I discovered it. That's what I was dealing with. So when I discovered that, I made a decision. I could not continue to live with this. I actually wanted to try to save it, but it was not possible. I could only save myself. And so that's what I started focusing on and started working on.
Wow. So what is the difference? Because what's the difference between a narcissist, in your opinion, and someone who's just proud of what they've done? So, we do have people who may seem a little conceited or bragging about their accomplishments. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But are you saying a narcissist is a little bit of it goes a little bit more just extreme, like not caring about what anyone else is doing, as opposed to someone's like, oh, okay, look what I did, just, pat on the back, really harmless. So you're saying there's an extreme difference between that and a narcissist?
Yes, it is. So a narcissist is, you can call it an extreme selfishness, but it is beyond selfishness. They tend to, as I mentioned, take credit for what other people do. They also, because they have a very low self-esteem, their value system is very low. And in order for them to make themselves feel good, look good, and actually consider to be good, they attempt to take a person down who is successful, who is accomplished. They try to take them down. And because they take them down, they succeed in doing that. They actually make themselves, and they feel themselves that they are the greatest, the best, and better, because you're this big, huge person that they themselves, with low self-esteem, was able to take down. So they basically, it's like they're putting you, that person, under their feet. And they do all kinds of things to defeat you. Everything that they touch tends to be destroyed, whether it's the finances, whether it's education, and it's or even you, the person, confidence. That's some of what, I mean, we can go on and on about it, but that's what's some of what people who are dealing with narcissism and narcissistic abuse.
Stacey Bullock, Tools for Everyday Living, she has a comment, actually a question. Okay. She wants to know, how does someone release themselves from this type of situation?
Very good question. One of the first things that I like to tell everyone, and I do, and what you can do, is make a decision. Make a decision that you no longer want to be treated like this, that what you're experiencing with this type of abuse is not normal. And then after you make the decision, then you want to start the process of getting this person, this narcissist, out of your life, or removing yourself from the narcissist. So if you live with the narcissist, whether married or you're living, or even a relative, then you want to start the process of either moving them out of your home or you moving out of your home. Some narcissists are not only those in that type of relationship, but they can also be in the workplace. They can be in associations, in volunteer situations, and because I've experienced them on board of directors. They are everywhere. And so the best thing to do is to start the process and make the decision that you want to remove yourself from that person and remove them from your life.
I'm glad you mentioned business, that Oni, who will be appearing in the next segment, she did have a question about your approach to empowering, people who have gone through narcissistic abuse. She says, how can one manage narcissistic people you do business with? Now, you are an entrepreneur, you do business with a lot of people, and some are probably narcissists, some might be more extreme than others. But the ones that, let's say, maybe not that extreme, that they are still narcissists, how do you cope with doing business with that person?
Very good question. So again, always you'll start to experience what do I call it? Draining. Their energy around you is often draining. And so first you want to identify that that's what you're dealing with. Once you realize that that's the case, the next thing that you want to do is you're going to be living and operating in two separate arenas. So one is you're having to deal with their personality and having to deal with their schemes and their tricks, their lies. They tend to like to set you up. But at the same time, you also have to you have to keep your sanity and keep yourself aware that you don't want to fall into their traps and into their tricks. And so I've had to deal with that as well. So one thing that you can do is to feed in just a little bit into what it is they're doing. I usually just give them the compliments they want, but at the same time, do not allow those compliments tear me down or bring me down.
Definitely. So I think, once it gets to that point, we all like to do business and thrive, but it's not worth a person's sanity to still continue that relationship. So what do you think, Dr. James Cooley, about, and before we take a break, what do you think about dealing with a narcissist, and have you dealt with narcissistic behavior in your business dealings? I mean, we do know people like that.
Well, I look at it like this. You deal with a lot of people, controlling people is what I call it, that think they know everything, have to be done their way, and they are used to putting you down to make themselves look better. So I think we all have dealt with folks along the way. I never knew what to call it, but until now. But yes, I have dealt with people like that, and the most important thing that I do is I'm just straight up. I just tell them, hey, this your way might not be the only way out there, especially if we are in business together and we're trying to achieve certain type of goals. And so sometimes the best way to handle that is just not to be disrespectful, but do not let them run over you.
But you know what? Sometimes, and I know we have to take a break, there are enablers, people who enable narcissistic behavior, whether it's friends, family, or business, because business, they want their money, they want their business. So they enable this behavior, or friends who maybe they're just so used to this person like that. But one thing I just want to leave off with before the break, just as Dr. Stancil has said, it is not worth your self-respect and dignity to put up with behavior when someone is putting you down.
That's true.
On that note, we are going to have to take a station break. But when we come back, we bring an honor into the picture, and we're gonna pick this conversation up a little bit more because it is interesting. So, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you do is continue to go to the comments, ask any question that you might have, and we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and I tell you, I am really enjoying this conversation, and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot, and it brings you to think about some of the things, just like Dr. Michelle was talking about a few minutes ago. You sit back and you think about, have I been in relationships or have been in business or co-workers or that's that way? I think we all have. But Dr. Stancil is telling us how to cope with some of these things. And we have to take heed because we're probably going to continue to be in situations like that, so, but now we know how to handle these things. I want to welcome Anna to the show. How are you doing today? How you doing?
Fine, doctor. How are you? I'm in Canada.
In Canada, hey. Yeah. So that's about 2 hours difference, I think, right?
No, we're in the same time zone.
Same time zone?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Is it warm and nice over in Canada?
First of all, oh, sorry.
Is it cold there? Nice and warm?
It's nice. I mean, it's starting to get warm. I just want to apologize for all the smoke we're sending your way and all the fires.
I know they're having major problems up in New York. I think they're kind of getting that under control.
It's happening here too.
So Anna, so far, what do you think? I know that you know the doc. What do you think about the show so far? And what are your thoughts?
It's an amazing show. It's a great platform because a lot of people like yourself mentioned that they didn't know that they were experiencing narcissism until they did research and found out about it. And it's great that we have a safe place to talk about it so that we know that we're not alone.
And that's important to know, to have people to discuss these types of things. Otherwise, not knowing, and you let it sit. And sometimes we start to think that it's okay. It's not really that bad when it is. If anything that's going to present hurt and potential pain is bad, and it's especially if it doesn't allow you to grow. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Stancil?
It is. It's a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. I want to also just piggyback on what Dr. Cooley was mentioning just before we went to the break about enablers, because that's one of the type of people that they seek, is people who are enablers or codependent, because they are broken. They can be successful, they can be accomplished and have a lot going on for them, but it may be something slightly off and that causes it, and the narcissist can see that and come right into their life. Like it can be a death in the family or a simple loss, and they just hone right in. They become charismatic and show their charisma and win that person over, and that's how they get involved and win their trust, and eventually start to withdraw that trust and start to harm them. And so it's very painful to have trusted someone, loved someone, and then they turn their back on you, or they try to destroy you. And so one of the questions, I see one of the questions, Julie Van Ostrand has a question here. If I can address that, can I address that question as well?
Absolutely. Can you read it first so if people that's listening?
Yes. Okay, so she asks, is it possible to set boundaries with a narcissist? And if so, the answer is yes. And if not, why not? So, and Julie, thank you very much for your congratulations over recovering from narcissistic abuse. Yes. And I believe only you have done the same thing as well. So, yes, it is possible to set boundaries. Um, you can set boundaries for them. One of the ways to do that, and Julie, you're welcome to come in and join us to talk about that as well. One of the ways to set boundaries is to stop tolerating and allowing them to bring you down, to interfere and with your self-esteem. And the biggest thing is it's really in the mind. You have to choose to be happy. You have to choose your value. This right here, what I'm talking about right here, choose to be happy. Make a decision that you don't have to be treated the way that they are treating you, that you don't have to be manipulated. So, yes, you can set boundaries. And one of the ways to set boundaries is to stop having a relationship with them, block them from your social media, block them from text messages, from calling you. Just stop the all contacts. Stop the wishful thinking that it could be better, that you could have a better relationship, that you can be happier with them, or you can fix the narcissist. The best thing to do is to separate yourself and get yourself away from the narcissist.
At what point do a person need to make that decision? I'm talking about, I know it's toleration is depending on the person, but sometimes it's a point where it's like, I can't take this, can't take this no more. At what point do you think a person need to really seriously sit back and say, yeah, I'm gonna have to step out of this. I know it's gonna be painful because I'm used to it. And this has been a way of life, but it shouldn't be. Can you address that?
Yes, great question. And I'm going to ask Oni to chime in on as well, since she's here and joining us.
Okay.
To stop them is to decide and that actually to realize that you've had enough, that you've taken enough, that the person is no longer, they're no longer feeling happy or comfortable in their presence. And so the best thing to do is I keep wanting to go back to make a decision, because it really is mental, but to make it, to really decide that I cannot do this anymore. And when you start to feel that your life is falling apart, you're losing your finances, you're losing your friends, that is the time when it's time to let them go. But truthfully honest, once you know about narcissism, the best thing to do is to get them out of your space and out of your life as soon as possible. And I'll pass it on to Only, if I can, if you want to share in how you do that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sandra. For myself, I had to, when I understood what I was going through, I had to heal the parts of myself that allowed this to happen, the codependency. And, it's okay to be alone, like, because they're parasites. They are the devil in human form, and they need you more than you need them. And when you realize that they latch onto you because you're chosen, you're God's gift to the world, and when you believe that to be true for yourself, and when you love yourself and enough to separate yourself from that energy, things change. And but they do retaliate. I had to separate from my family. It was, and it's sadly, it's like it's the people that you trust and love the most that do this. And you have to heal. And a lot of the reasons why we're in this situation is because of like childhood wounding. So let's just say you felt abandoned as a child, then you stick onto people even though they're bad and they abuse you. You stick on because you fear abandonment, right? So when you are self-sufficient and when you're not needy and whatnot, and when you're strong to go into the world without caring about what people think, and forgetting, because also like the shame that they put on you is not yours. Like you're not responsible for the abuse and whatnot. And when you heal from that, then all is good, and you could thrive.
That is true.
Wow. So how do you know when you have gotten better or healed from a situation, because as humans, we always tend to want to go back in the past. How do you keep from not reverting back? And I think we all have felt that way before, but we have to be strong. Can both of you guys address that, please?
So yes, thank you, Dr. Cooley. You don't go back and you stop them from coming into your life. So I'll give you an example. Recently, the narcissist that was in my life contacted me through social media. The very first thing I did was block that person. That's how you deal with them, honestly. You cannot allow that form of energy into your space. You cannot entertain. You cannot figure out and think and wonder, how is it possible that they can come into your life? And so that's the first thing I did. And the first thing that I suggest and I recommend to all my clients, past and prospective and future clients, immediately sever the tie. And Oni, you want to share as well?
Yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Saundra and Dr. Cooley. It's I had to I mean, it was, for me, it was so I was the black sheep, and my brother was the golden child, and my mother allowed my brother to drain all of my finances. And when I addressed the abuse, I was a bad guy, bad person for addressing the abuse. That's what it looks like in that dynamic. And then when I decided to leave my family, then I had bad social skills because I wasn't with my blood and all that stuff. But ever since then, like, I mean, imagine, like, I was over 200 pounds. I mean, over 300 pounds. And they used to make fun of me for being overweight. They bullied me every day. And then when I lost 200 pounds, then they said that I took drugs. I went to the gym. I had a healthy diet. So, like, it's kind of like they had nothing to attack. So they spread rumors. They created smear campaigns, everything. And now it's like I'm free from that. And you could be free too. And I mean, I really recommend you work with Dr. Saundra, because she's really awesome and an amazing coach. And thank you for Dr. Cooley for giving her a platform, because Dr. Saundra's doing God's work, and I support her. That's why I'm here today. And she has a lot to share. Yeah.
And I have one other thing, if I can. I just want to add one other thing, just to answer to that question. I didn't mention it, but Oni gave an example of it. When you have rid the narcissist out of your life, you do exactly what Oni has done. You'll laugh at it. You'll laugh at this situation, and you think, how funny, what was that I just went through? When you can laugh at it, you know that you have rid yourself of the narcissist.
And this question I want to ask before the break, and I just want you to think about it before we actually take the break. Okay. You know how a lot of victims of abuse, whether physical, mental, verbal, they blame themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, sometimes people, men, women, doesn't matter, they have a pattern of dealing or being in a relationship with the same type of abuse. Yeah. So, and this is a question to think about. For narcissists, for those who are victims of narcissistic behavior, if it keeps happening to them, now family's different, because you can't choose your family. But I'm talking about like just relationships in period. And it could be your family, it could be, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But if you feel like you're being victimized repeatedly by a narcissist, do you believe, without blaming yourself, but that maybe the victim or the person needs to take a step back and say, okay, what am I doing or not doing by allowing these people to come into my space? So that's just a thought before you answer that question for the next segment. So James, you could take us away for break.
Yeah, well, please maintain that thought, because we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And this is an amazing topic that we're discussing today. So our viewers and our listeners out there, it's not too late. If you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the comments, ask any questions. And now we got Anna and Dr. Sandra will answer your questions. This is your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and the only thing I can say is wow. Wow. I did not expect this, meaning that I did not know what to expect. But I am so happy that we're talking about this topic right here, because it opens the eyes to many of us, and I know our viewers and our listeners. I see we got many viewers out there that's watching the show, and so I really appreciate that. But I would be remiss if I did not even put a plug in about my book, A Black Man Point of View. It was released, I guess about 12 days ago. #1 release, #1 bestseller, a national and international. And I tell you, Black Man Point of View is not just about Black people. It's a Black Man Point of View, mind, body, and soul. It's about all people. It's giving our viewers and giving our readers an understanding that why many of us think the way that we do, based on 400 years of colonization, slavery, being taken away from our native country, being forced to in bondage. And it's a good roadmap to how do we recover from this, and how we learn to love and not hate, how we learn to love everybody regardless of what situation or circumstance you're in. So go out and pick up A Black Man Point of View, mind, body, and soul. And we need comments. We need people to read it and provide comments. But I want to get back to the show. Michelle, you asked the question. We got the better part of 6 minutes. So can you repeat the question again?
Well, yes. So victim blaming is not something we don't want victims to blame themselves for anything. My question is, there are a lot of situations where a person finds himself in the same situation with the same type of behavior. I understand family, you can't choose family, you can't choose family. But let's say it's a relationship, a romantic relationship or a friendship where you're consistently dealing with narcissistic behavior. My question is, does that person maybe need to take a step back and say, okay, what is it that I am not doing or doing when I'm allowing these people to be a part of my life? Does that make sense? Am I saying it correctly? So
Yes.
let's start with you, Dr. Stancil, then we go with you, Oni.
Yes, that does make sense. And you asked a question. I've experienced that. I'm experiencing it right now. I have another person in my life that I cannot release. Some people you can't release. Some of them are relatives. Some of you work with. Some of them are your staff persons, and you have to you have to deal with them. And so, what are you doing? What am I doing wrong or what I'm doing right? I distance myself. Some people, like a relative, you have to, whether they're a spouse or a sibling or a cousin, you have to distance the amount of time and space that you spend with that person. And it's just as simple as that. When they come around, or when you talk to them over the phone, or you have some connection, your time is very limited with them. You separate yourself, or you limited your conversation. You really have to, ultimately you're severing the tie. And then I'll start with that and allow only to chime in on as well.
Yeah, like sometimes if you find some of your friends are in secret competitions with you as it relates to friends, like the haters, literally, to be the narcissists. Sometimes like jokes are disguised as insults. It really shows how they feel about you. And if you step back, you actually see how people feel about you through jokes and whatnot. I had a very good friend that I released myself from. We're 2 days apart. And she waited until my birthday. Like, she actually was on my Facebook. That's why I don't really use Facebook anymore. And she stalked my Facebook to see who would wish me a happy birthday. And when she saw that people loved me, she posted on my Facebook, oh, she would have sent me a card, but I changed my address, which is not true. You know what I mean? Like, they just rain on your parade. So I stopped talking to her. She showed up at my house with, she was, I don't know, and they don't like to be exposed publicly. And yeah, you just have to, you deserve better, and you just need to, I know it's hard, but get away. And also, they're like predators. So let's just say you say, oh, I'm always in bad relationships, right? Someone who's a predator, almost like a serial killer, says, she's been in bad relationships. So this is a person, like, they're vampires. They will latch onto you because they know that you have a low self-esteem, and this is like a pathology, right? So that's how they literally like single you out. They attack you like serial killers, and you basically have to say less. And Dr. Cooley, if you promise me an autograph copy, I'll buy you a copy of your book today.
I promise. I promise.
Very good.
We down to about the last minute and a half of the show. Real quickly, Julie asked a question as it relates to danger, when the person feels their life in danger. Dr. Stancil, can you kind of respond to that real quickly?
Yes, I'm going to read the question. How do you separate yourself from a narcissist? And did you feel like your life was in danger? Yes, it's an excellent question, Julie. I did separate myself from the narcissist. I refer to the narcissist as the ex. I don't call him my ex because I don't possess him any longer. And so what I did was I had to give him the impression that he already was used to. So I was living two lives. One life the narcissist knew, the other life was my truth. And my truth was I was strengthening myself, building up my self-esteem, and moving on to just being being the true person of who I am. Now, the danger part is when I start to see destruction in his eyes, I stop testing him. And I knew it was time for me to move on. So I did things like not rock the boat. I did things to make sure that I kept him thinking that he was in control. And at the same time, some people may want to call it a double life, but I was surviving. That's how I did that.
So survivor. So wow, we are out of time, but I want to thank both of you all for taking the time to come on the show. We're going to have to do this again because there was a lot of questions that we didn't get to. So hey, thank you, Dr. Sandra. Thank you, Anna. And I would like to thank Dr. Cooley for putting together another great show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning into the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And I tell you, we'll be back next week, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So tune in. Always dream big, think big, and be big. It's your life. We'll see you then.